Korean Gangplank Reroll is bringing back AD melee carries into the meta, a new variation of the vertical Demacia line that allows it to cap even higher, the result of day 1 of the first North American sub-regional for set 16, and T-Hex Brock has been successfully piloted by none other than one of the greatest players in the scene, YBY1. All of that and much more will be covered today as we go over what is currently going on in the TFT space. Now let's get started with the first story today, which is going to be 5 Demacia Kai'Sa. Ginya recently posted this over on Twitter talking about how he noticed that one player in particular has been trying to spam a lot of games of 5 Demacia Kai'Sa. Esther Yu is the name of this player in particular, and if you check over into their match history, you can see that they have been playing quite a bit of games trying to play around a Demacia Kai'Sa variation. Now, of course, this player isn't necessarily the highest ranked player of all time, but they have been generally finding success while they've been trying to pilot this line. Now, I did a little bit of digging looking into their match history and a little bit of the stats, and when you take a look into the actual board itself, it does seem that Esther in particular, as well as the stats, do actually seem to prefer playing this line with an incredibly high scaling Kai'Sa build, something similar to Ginsu's Archangels. Now, I just want to make it clear that this is actually a level 8 board. It just happens to be that Galio is on the board itself, but normally he would be on your bench, so Tarek would be taking that spot instead. But on that note, talking about Galio is going to be an integral part of this composition. You see that this player, Esther Yu, does not have any games of this composition without having Galio unlocked as well. That means that in order to play this line, you need to make sure that you are unlocking Galio first before you start teching down out of the vertical and then starting to play into the higher quality units. Now again, the sample of this line is quite low and the stats are not necessarily that impressive, but it's still a line that you can definitely consider if you need to play around Demacia and want to cap out a little bit higher or find some level of consistency if you happen to be stuck on level 8. Overall, I do think this line has some potential to have some legs, although it does require a lot of testing as the sample for this line is incredibly still low. Overall, I do think it's really cool and really interesting, and I'd love to see more players experimenting with this line. The next topic I want to go over today is going to be covering a Korean one-trick challenger player known as Kitty Giri. Kitty Giri is somebody who is honestly killing it on ladder right now, and they have been pioneering an incredible GP3 reroll tech, and they have been spamming it throughout the majority of their games. It isn't every game, but they have been finding quite a bit of success whenever they do play the line itself. Now, the line plays very similarly to something like what you'd expect for Graves reroll in the current meta, where you're abusing the 3 and 5 cost shop odds in order to try and get better odds to get Gangplanks through your Bilgewater shops. That way, you're able to still push your tempo while trying to find copies of GP. The comp itself caps out fairly similarly to the 4 Slayer board, if you remember back during the PvE when that was a meta build, with units like Swain, Ambessa, Belvet on the board. But interestingly enough, units like Kog'Maw, Nautilus, Alawi, and Scion are also making an appearance on this board. With enough Bilgewater, you could technically cap out of Alawi into something higher like Tahm Kench, but that is a bit difficult considering that throughout the majority of the game, you're never really getting to a 7 Bilgewater breakpoint. Most of the time, you end up being stuck on 5. Now, in terms of itemization, I don't know too much myself, and the match history does seem to imply, though, that QSS is integral on Gangplank as well as Belvet, but Ambessa also wants items as well, so this does seem to be a composition where your augments are going to have to be pretty item heavy. Items like Hodge and Sterak's are great for units like Ambessa and Gangplank, while items like GS or Kraken are going to be much more viable for units like Belvet. If you want to see a great example of this line being played, Wajan Iverson also recently played this game, who is a known top challenger player in North America, who was able to pilot this line incredibly well and can really showcase just what it would look like in the hands of a very skilled player. Now, of course, Wajan is not an expert on this line in particular, but he is so foundationally strong as a player that fundamentally speaking, he knows exactly what needs to be done for the most part just by taking a gander at the player's match history. I highly recommend checking out his VOD, which I will link in the description below if you want to go see a case example. Now, on a bit more of a lighthearted topic, tleyds, who is a really well-known high challenger ranking player, was actually going to start off the New Year's doing a subathon, but funny enough, during the subathon, he actually ended up getting banned. You actually cannot find this dude's Twitch channel anymore, and it turns out that the reason being is because he was watching Hell's Kitchen and reacting to it while on stream, and I guess that must have triggered something in the backend system that caused his account to get automatically banned. Probably some sort of copyrighted audio was getting leaked into the VOD, and if you don't know anything about Twitch, generally speaking, as long as there is no copyrighted content in the VOD itself, once it's actually on Twitch, then it's totally okay. But if there is copyrighted content in there, that's when your account's going to get flagged. And I guess for T-Lights, he ended up getting a ban into the subathon. So funny enough, he actually got banned quite quickly into the subathon, and players are already going like, hey man, I gifted you 5 gifted, but what happened? Like, the stream's already over. What the hell's going on? So, but just something I thought that was worth sharing. The next topic I want to go over is going to be, again, another tweet from Ginia. He's been posting a lot of bangers recently, and what you're seeing on screen is a compilation of images of a bunch of Masters Plus players who have gone first place playing rek'sai Reroll. But if you squint your eyes just a little bit, you might actually notice something on screen here and a general pattern, and that is darkin scythe. Again, this item is incredibly overtuned and is turning compositions that are normally not very viable into some incredibly stellar compositions. And as you can tell by the statistics itself, rek'sai 3, once she actually has darkin scythe, a negative 0.81 delta can be found, making the composition significantly more viable. I would not lean this composition unless you had darkin scythe from 2-1 with a rek'sai copy, and then from there on, you can really start to think about it. Honestly, it's a really cool comp, pretty spicy. It does seem to be that the default positioning for rek'sai is going to be in A4. I'm not sure if that is 100% correct, but Dasic, who Subzero Arc was VOD reviewing in one of his previous videos from earlier this week, was doing. Now, I highly recommend taking the chance to actually watch through this VOD and just watch the way that Dasic navigates the game. It does seem to have an incredibly high amount of tempo slamming, but it is definitely worth the watch, although I do think his early game holds were a bit questionable. Maybe Dasic was already trying to experiment with some rek'sai reroll, and then he stumbled upon the darkin scythe, which is what fulfills the conditions of what we're talking about today. Really cool stuff. Highly recommend checking it out, and let's move on to the next topic. Earlier today on the competitive TFT subreddit, DataTFT actually made an announcement talking about how they just released a new specific feature, and I think that this is an incredible feature if you want to watch more of TFT, and that is their new streaming category. Now obviously there are some other things in here as well, but this is the real big meats and potatoes that I want to talk about today. If you go to their website DataTFT.com, you can see that in the streaming category that you can see over here, there are a bunch of Chinese streamers here that you can go watch if you want to try and see the game from their perspective and how they navigate the game. And I highly recommend trying it out, even if you can't speak the language, because I certainly cannot, but it was definitely pretty easy to find some players right off the bat. In the future, I do hope they try to introduce some sort of title card underneath the player's name and icon in English. That way international users are able to actually understand who they are watching, but still, it's an incredible feature and a step in the right direction that I don't think anyone else in the scene is currently doing, so I highly recommend giving this a go. But moving on to the next topic, let's talk about the North American sub-regionals. The first sub-regional of the North American competitive circuit for Set 16 has just concluded their first round of games for day 1. Chenny or Chini, I actually don't know how to pronounce their name, I apologize, dropped an absolute nuke of 43 out of 48 potential points with a score line going 115 to 1-1. Absolute nuke. Now, of course, I had to go and check out their match history, and as you can tell based on their match history, they played a plethora of different compositions. Vayne 3, Diana 3, but obviously this is a Diana Seraphine line. Things like Freljord, Invokers as well, Graves, Reroll, Yunara, as well as another game of Yunara. So quite a lot of variety in here, which I thought was really interesting, and more surprisingly, no T-Hex. Now, obviously, this person was not the only one who played. There were a ton of players who partook today, including yours truly, who's sitting right here, who actually dropped a 36 bomb, doing fantastic for myself, which I was really proud of for today. And if you want to go watch my run, I actually have a brand new VODs channel that you can go check out that I will link in the description below, where you can see the entirety of the stream there, and you can watch all of my games. I went 2-1-1-8-5-1. The last game was very sloppy. Please don't watch that one, please, or the 8th, but any of the other games, I think that's totally okay by me. But if you watch those, the other disaster classes, I mean, I guess that's fine as well. This is what the channel looks like right now. There's not much on there, but I just wanted to promote it a little bit because I have 1 subscriber, and that 1 subscriber is me. So yeah, feel free to check it out. It's gonna be VODs of the Twitch. It's gonna be all on there, free to watch for anybody. But that's basically what that is. Now, moving on to the last topic of today is going to be an incredible game played by none other than YBY1. Now, in case you're living under a TFT rock, YBY1 is considered one of the top players in the entire world. And just to put it into perspective, this guy has been rank 1 of Vietnam, rank 1 of North America, and has been 3rd at Worlds 3 times, which is an incredible feat and just a testament to his consistency when it comes to the global stage. But enough glazing. That being said, if you look at the match history in the screenshot that you see right now, he actually managed to pull off Brock 2, T-Hex 2 in a full challenger level lobby on the Vietnam server. This is the first time I've seen anybody actually pull off such an insane feat at high elo, and I was actually able to find the game that he played because he ended up streaming that game earlier today, which I will link in the description below. I don't want to spoil anything, but it was such a beautiful masterclass, and even if you can't speak Vietnamese, I highly recommend checking it out and watching the gameplay, because just like chess, the game speaks for itself.
Chess speaks for itself.
But that's basically gonna do it for today. Thank you guys for watching today's recap as to what is going on in the current TFT space. I don't really know what to call this series at all. If you got any suggestions, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear it. But I will be playing in the sub-regionals tomorrow for day 2, so please feel free to drop by my stream and just come support or come say hi or whatever. I'll be reading chat in between games. So anyways, that's all I got for today. Take care, guys. I hope you're having a good day. Happy climbing.